5 comic books reviewed. Hi, welcome to Garage Geek. So today I am going to go over 5 comics that have been moldering in my drawers. I need to read these because I bought them and they've just been sitting there. They're actually recent comics. In this episode, I am going to be reviewing these. So this is Super Suckers number 1, Green Lantern number 87, facsimile, Creepshow Volume 3, Issue 2, Epitaphs from the Abyss number 1, and Cruel Universe number 1. I'm going to do those in reverse order. So I'm going to start with Cruel Universe number 1. I was very interested in buying these for the covers because I love this old EC style, and I guess they're in the EC label. It's from the title focused on a science fiction horror element, and it is a compilation comic where there are 4 different stories. A lot of these stories have to fit a lot into a few pages. You have to build up the story, build up the character, build up the situation, and then reveal the ending. And some of these books are more successful at it than others, and that's also true story to story. Now, the first one, called The Champion, is like a future gladiatorial world. We've seen this in many movies and comics, but this one has a slight twist. And I like the art, and I am not going to reveal the ending, but I thought the ending was kind of fun. I thought it was a really strong way to start the comic. You can see the art is actually really nice. You can see the gladiator world. And this is a story where after you've finished it, you go back and you look at all the details that you kind of missed or overlooked when you were reading it the first time. Okay, the next story involved a man circling a black hole who finds a ship in distress. It becomes a time travel story, and I totally figured it out. What I liked about this is that even though it had very similar elements to many things that I've seen, I was enjoying the ride, but I disliked the ending because it was very abrupt and I had figured it out before. If you're going to do time travel, it's difficult not to use a trope. And if you do use a trope, most fans of time travel are savvy to the tropes, and it's harder to trick them. So if you're going to use a trope, you really have to have an amazing story and setup. The next story is called Drink Up, and this is about a really rich man in search of ways to prolong his life when he discovers where the Fountain of Youth is. And I'm not going to say this was the best story ever, but it had kind of a fun ending, which is a little bit open to interpretation, and I enjoyed it. The fourth story, I'm covering this so you don't see the ending of the other one, is called Priceless. And the art style in this one was really quirky and fun. The story was interesting. It involves a man who does things not because he wants to. A really wealthy man who is paralyzed uses his memories. And so the man, even though he experiences it in the moment, he won't be able to keep it. The memories are taken from him. So he just does all of these things for pay. But the story goes into a very dark place, but I kind of liked the ending on this one. So for a first issue of Cruel Universe, it was actually better than I expected. It has its ups and downs, but overall, I really enjoyed this issue, and I look forward to reading the other issues that are out. The next one is Epitaphs from the Abyss, and this is number 1. Look at that cool Lee Bermejo cover. And this also has 4 different stories in it. It's got this great frontispiece. And then the first story right off the bat, I actually read this one before I read Cruel Universe, and the first story right off the bat was pretty bad for me. It made me concerned for all of these comics that are in this line because the first story really was such a letdown. And what I thought was that, a writer has to do something interesting in about 6 pages. I know these are silly horror comics, but some writers will just go for over the top. When this story done in the right hands could have been very subtle and very interesting. I really did like the setup. There is a no good writer who thinks he's way better than everyone else around him. He looks down on humanity. He has a roommate, and his roommate writes a script. The man who is the writer, the actual writer, cannot believe that someone so beneath him, who just tries, his first try, does such a good job. Now, from there, it gets ridiculous, it gets silly, it gets over the top. And I really like the premise, even though it's nothing I haven't seen before. I did not like the execution of this story. And there you go. I kind of used a joke that these stories often have in my description. The next one, called Senator, is about a politician whose views on a subject change as soon as she gets into office, and a reporter wants to understand. This story goes into a very dark but interesting place, but again, the execution, the end of it, is very clunky. I was starting to get very worried because many of these stories have really interesting setups, but they fail in bringing it home in the end. But then we get to the third one, and the third one I actually really enjoyed. And I think even though it has kind of a trick ending, it actually really worked for this story. And this one is called Family Values. The art is fun. A man is given a gun with one bullet, and he must kill someone in his family or himself within a certain amount of time, or else the gunmen that surround them will kill them all. And people watch this and they bet online for who is going to be killed. They said the art in this is a lot of fun. It's very dark and with stark backgrounds. It's really interesting art style. It fits the story very well. And I did like the ending. So the next one is called Us versus Us. Now, I have to admit that this one is a little bit confusing. And I think in this world, if you take a vaccine, it mutates you. And so there are the vaxxers and the anti-vaxxers. And this was like really over the top, because if you actually choose to take the vaccine, you become a mutant. But I guess the ones who don't, they stay human, but they become a danger to the society, or they just don't fit in. The ones who mutate hunt the humans down to eat them. It was all very strange and weird, and it was just a weird ending. I don't know, I didn't really hate this issue, but I didn't really enjoy it all that much. I am absolutely going to be reading the next one. Maybe it was just a rocky start, but when you do get one or two in a collection like this that you actually really like, I think it makes it worth it. And none of them are horrible. The art, the ideas, they're fun. They're just not always ended well. So it was with a lot of trepidation that I read Creepshow Volume 3, Number 2. And I looked this up, and I didn't have issue number 1. Look at that cool background. And I'm actually sad because this one was better than all the other ones. And I think I know the reason why. This one only has 2 stories in the entire comic, so that the artists and the storytellers had a lot more room to bring their stories and their characters to life. And I think it helped. Now, I'm not going to say these stories are amazing beginning to end, but they had breathing room in which to grow. The first story is called The Last Sleepover, and it's about these kids having a sleepover on Halloween when they are invaded by some vampires in the form, they're small, so maybe they were children to begin with. You can see from this, it's very dark, and the art is fun. It was creepy. I thought it did a great job. Is there anything new in this story? No, but it was a fun read, and I enjoyed it. And the next one was called Trigger Warning, and this one wasn't so great. It's this idea of people challenging other people to stay in a haunted house. This one happens to be in an urban setting where there's a lot of crime. The people who, the first one who goes there, goes on a dare, comes up missing, and they like to blog about it. But it was actually kind of fun. The art along the way was interesting. The story was fun. It just had a silly ending. I enjoyed it. I think I liked the breathing room that the story had. And even though it did end on a silly note, along the way it had some genuinely interesting ideas, and there was a mystery that, even though it was very unsatisfactory in the end, they had me along for the ride because I wanted to know the mystery. And one of the mystery was after the kid, or after the person who's in the haunted house is supposedly killed, they left a message on the wall that read, "Now I know." And so every person who goes next, they want to figure out the mystery of what was it that person finally learned. So Creepshow number 2, look at that gorgeous, gorgeous cover. Still not amazing, but I'm glad that I bought these, and they're fun reads. They're just not amazing, but they have these kernels of greatness in them through the art and the story. Okay, the fourth one is going to be my favorite. And I'm shocked because after reading the Detective Comics from my last review, I was very leery because I think this is from the same time. And this is Green Lantern number 87. We have the introduction, John Stewart, not John Stewart. Is his name John Stewart? I think so. Yeah, John Stewart. But also, Guy Gardner is mentioned in this. Now, Guy Gardner is supposed to be set up to be the next Green Lantern, but he has an accident, and so he's not ready. And for some reason, I don't know because I didn't read any issues before this, Hal Jordan is tired of being Green Lantern and he wants to give it up. And so he is actively searching for his replacement. Now, what makes this story so interesting? Number one, the art is phenomenal. Let me show you. I mean, that's not the best splash page. It's not the best example of the art. The art is actually better in the backup story because there's actually 3 stories in this comic. So I'll get to that one. But the art is not bad in this story either. We've got a real clash here. And it's very interestingly done because this is a facsimile comic from 1971. And this comic is all about race. Hal Jordan has his ideas. John Stewart has his ideas. They clash. Both of them are right. Both of them are wrong. It's very interesting how they show what's going on in society and how each reacts to this situation. This really felt like a microcosm of what was going on in the United States at the time, and they don't hold back. Like, this is really in your face when it comes to what's going on with race in the United States at the time. And a lot of this comic still really resonates. It's weird to think that this was written in 1971 when, with a few changes, this comic could have come out now and have been just as important. Now, at the end, they do come to some kind of uneasy peace because they understand that the differences that they both have are justified, but they go about solving a problem in different ways, but they both know that they have to come to the same place, just from different approaches. Now, the next one was Green Arrow. The next one is a Green Arrow story. And wow, I was just kind of blown away by how good the art is in this issue. Look at this splash page. The art in this was better than the Green Lantern part, although I think the art team is the same. Look at this cool way the panels were set up. So we go top to bottom. He's calling different people. So he calls Black Canary. Later, there's going to be some sexist language there. He calls Bruce Wayne. That's hilarious. I thought Bruce Wayne had his hand in his underwear, but I think those are swimming trunks that have a pocket. I don't know. It's just really, really weird. And then he calls Green Lantern and he calls Superman. So he's calling everybody in town to get advice because they want him to run for mayor. And he's very reluctant at first. He's going to go through a night of rioting, and he realizes that he needs to help make a change in the society. But look at this art. And then I want to show you this one. So he decides to zip across town using a rocket arrow and a backpack. But he falls short, and he ends up in the middle of a riot. Now, this is really contrived, but this young boy starts beating on him, and then he apologizes. He doesn't realize it. And right in front of Green Arrow, this kid is attacked from behind. He rushes him to the hospital, but the child dies. And we got this really, really great art. I mean, look, that is really, really good. I mean, I keep saying that. In my opinion, I just think this art is so good for this comic that I thought was going to be a throwaway. We come to the last page of the comic, I think. And he goes over Black Canary's house and he keeps calling her pretty bird and pretty lady. Yeah, thanks, pretty lady, thanks. I know it's of its time, but it seems very weird and sexist. Finally, we get a reprint of a Green Lantern story that was kind of... I actually had this question. This story tries to answer a question that happens in the first appearance of Green Lantern. And since I just read that comic, I wondered myself, hey, since the Green Lanterns can fly through outer space, why was Abin Sur? Why was he in a spaceship when he crashed on the Earth? If the Green Lantern rings allow them to fly, so they go through this convoluted story that retells a story. And the reason that we're able to get this information is that recently Green Lantern found out that he can actually communicate with his ring, and the ring could tell him what the former Green Lantern had done. All in all, it's a pretty cool story. Hal Jordan has what seems like a sidekick in a young kid, and he's telling the story to this young kid. I don't know who this young kid is, but it's pretty bad because he's definitely Asian, and his name is Pieface. I was like, what? Why is that kid's name Pieface? But other than that, it's a pretty fun issue that just retells a story, and it actually, not in a very satisfying way, but it does try to clear up a mystery as to what an inconsistency that occurred in the first appearance of Green Lantern. There we go, Hal Jordan talking to Pieface. I don't know, that's just really bad. The final comic is Super Suckers #1. Now, this is a little bit of a cheat because I've been trying to focus on comics that have come out recently that people could still go to a local comic shop and buy. I got this at a comic convention. There was the man who was in charge of this company. He was there, and I bought a group of like 6 or 8 comics for $30. Now, this is a $3.99 comic. It is like 3 comics in one. There aren't any ads in it, and the whole thing is solid comic. Obviously, you can see that this is very much like Archie, and the style is, it mimics Archie in such a way that is really cool. These comics are called Sit Comics. It's got a TV show format, and it tells you the time of day that you should be reading or watching this. So this one is a 9 p.m. show. So it is for teens and up. I would actually say that the content of this is for older teens, not really for adults. It's right in that age where there's a little bit of sexual innuendo, but it's not, like full-on sex and swearing and all that kind of stuff. No, it's mostly just innuendo. And it's also designed where there's a main story. It takes commercial breaks, and I think there were at least 2 commercial breaks, and they would have 1 to 2 pagers that were each commercials advertising products, and then it would go back to the story. The whole comic is silly, but I actually really, really enjoyed it for what it is. It was a lot of fun. The story is, we have these college-age kids. There's a foreign student that this woman is dating, but unbeknownst to her, he's a vampire, and he changes her and another woman that he was 2-timing this woman for. And so they join forces to try to deal with this situation because now they have the lust for blood. Like I said, it's all very silly, but it's actually a lot of fun. So then we get to the first set of commercials, and the first one is Sleep With Me. And this man runs a mattress company called Sleep With Me. It's just every double entendre. Like, he tells, hey, this old lady, where can I get a mattress? Oh, Sleep With Me. And then, how she reacts, and how this one was the funniest. How this big guy acts. He falls in love with him after he tells him to sleep with me. And it's funny. The next one is a commercial for an animal dating service, and that one was also fun. And the final one was the best of them all, and it had pretty cool art. So this is a clone that you can spray on men so that they can just shut up when you come up to them, because everything that comes out of their mouths are stupid the first time you meet them. And so you spray this on them, and so you don't have to deal with the stupid things that they say. It was pretty funny. So then we get back to the story, and we're introduced to more characters, and it just goes on and on. This story develops. It's fun. There are more commercials, and overall, I'm very glad that I bought this, and I'm looking forward to reading the other ones that I bought, and they have different time zones, different time periods that you're supposed to be reading, so probably different maturity levels. I'm glad I bought this series of books. Like I said, I can't wait to read the other ones. So today I covered 3 horror anthologies, and one of them sci-fi tinged, 1 comedy magazine, and one facsimile edition. Please let me know in the comments if you've read any of these or if you're planning to buy any of these. Have I persuaded you, or have I reinforced the idea that maybe you need to stay away from some of these comics? I would say that if you're going to buy any of these, it should be the Green Lantern Green Arrow facsimile edition. This was a pretty eye-opening comic, and I thought pretty bold for its time, that still stands up, although it's got very, very dated elements in it. These three comics did not turn me off the genre. I'm looking forward to reading more in all three. And in fact, the next video, I will be continuing with the second issues of these. And finally, I will continue to read this series. And I hope the next time that I go to the comic convention, the local one, that I will see this person and I can get more of the comics from his company. If not, they have a website that I could go to get more. And so here are some more of the comics. As always, I want to thank you all for the support.